Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Wednesday and we are on day 2 of the Acrylic Landscape Workshop. And I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Peter Stout.
Good morning, everybody.
The wonderful, the amazing, the incredible Diana Shine. Diana.
Good morning. Thanks for that introduction. That was amazing.
Well deserved. It's well deserved for sure. And we're excited. I know everybody who's here is excited to learn from you, Diana. And it's so fun. Look at this, guys. I mean, I don't know, but it's really amazing to see all of you here and showing up from all over. And did you guys know that it was snowy in Florida?
Not until today.
I know. I'm looking at that Alabama, Louisiana, like all these places that are snowy, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's cool. I mean, you probably don't get that very often.
Right.
Wow. I can imagine it. The palm trees covered with snow right now. So we have a special day in front of us. Diana, do you want to give us just a little teaser about what you're going to show us today?
Yeah. Water is such an interesting subject to paint because it's moving. It's a big, shiny, reflective surface or not. It's transparent or not. There's so many variables in water. We could spend months learning this. So I've tried to compact the big ideas about painting water, sunlight on water, reflections in water, all kinds of things into just a really small tutorial, but I could just go on and on. But it is so fun to paint it. And I really hope you enjoyed today's little lesson and demo, because I had a lot of fun putting it together for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I want to just give you guys a heads up. You probably want to get out a pencil and a notepad today and really just write the things down that Diana's going to share with you. Her teaching is from years and years of experience and teaching experience. So she's kind of boiled it down today, and you'll want to have something to write down all the notes that you'll want to go back to later. Yep. So without further ado, Peter, is there anything that you want to say before I jump into the slides?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then we're going to jump into this and we'll get this ball rolling. So we are in the acrylic.
Diana, we'll see you later.
Yeah. See you, Diana. We'll see you in a little bit. We're in the landscape workshop and challenge. It is day 2. And of course, today is a good day because Diana's going to be talking about how to paint water. And so I do have a quick question for you right off the bat. Who is excited to learn from Diana? Because this is going to be good. Diana's an incredible teacher and she has a vast amount of knowledge. So very excited. I see people already. Oh, actually, somebody just commented, I love your haircut, Diana. So there you go. I am, yes, so many people excited to learn. Today's session will be about 90 minutes. Mary Ellen, excited. Pamela, Susan, hello, Teresa, yes, me. Okay, there's going to be instruction. There's going to be a demonstration. There will be prizes, of course. And then at the end, again, we will have a Q&A. And I'm loving seeing all you guys who are very excited to learn from Diana. And here's another thing. I need to ask you another question here in just a minute. Because we tell you this every time. Replays will be available throughout the workshop. So my question for you guys is, where do you find everything for this workshop? I'm going to ask it a different way too. What is the dashboard? Where is the dashboard for this workshop? And I'm going to give you an even easier big hint here. Hint, it is theblankworkshop.com. I need to see it somewhere. Yes, people are saying the dashboard, but I want you to remember exactly what the words are there. The blank landscape. There it is. It is the landscapeworkshop.com right there. And so I'm just going to show you guys around, because a lot of times we have, we try to make this easy, but I want to show you because sometimes it's not super, you might not have been there and you might not know exactly what it is. But if you go to thelandscapeworkshop.com, it's going to look like this. There's a start here page, and all the buttons are over on the left-hand side. So you can click on any of those buttons and it will pull up whatever that page has. So Facebook group, you can go there. You could go to today's lesson and you can see, oh, look, it's on water. There's how you could watch it on YouTube. You could download the reference photo. You can get the supply list. All that is there for you. There's also a homework button, and you can just go right there, click on the form and fill out that form. Now, I do want to apologize here really quickly about any confusion any of you had. There was a little bit of a miswording in our email. You don't need to upload anything to that form. It's just simply filling it out, letting us know. And of course, you can share in the Facebook group. Now, if you're accessing the Landscape Workshop dashboard on a phone, it's going to look like this. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you click on something, you just pick wherever you want to go. If we said day 3, you click on it, but then you need to scroll down. Now, a few people have been confused because they didn't know they needed to scroll down, but it's all there, mobile, desktop, whatever, and it's all at thelandscapeworkshop.com. So that's where to go if you want anything related to this workshop. If you have questions today, you can ask them in the chat, but also at the very end, we're going to have a Q&A. Guys, I'm excited. I'm proud of you. I see so many people being courageous, like the lion that we know is inside you. So I want to say right off the bat today, good job. Really good job. And this is why doing this together matters. We saw this comment from Brenda, and basically there's more to read there, but she just starts out by saying, I am extremely discouraged. I'm feeling discouraged. Now, if you're on your own, you're isolated and you feel discouraged, there's not that much help for you. But inside of the community, this is why it matters. Look at that, 114 comments of people saying things like, I just pulled out a couple. You can do it. Take one, just take one step at a time. Don't be overwhelmed. You got this, Brenda. And that's what it's all about, guys, is we're doing this together so that we're not left alone. We're not discouraged by ourselves. We're in this and encouraging each other. Because every day, if you remember the slide, we face in life, we have blessings, but we have struggles too. There's redemption, there's hope, and we want to be moving along in that direction. And I came across this post by Robin who says, this was my first landscape ever and my first acrylic painting ever. My brother passed away unexpectedly last night. So it was comforting to work on this piece late last night and this morning. He was my guiding inspiration to this as he loved the outdoors. And so to Robin and to all of you who are here, who are showing up, and I know there's more of you who have heavy hearts. There's more of you who are going through hard situations. I just want you to know, thanks for being here. Our hearts are with you. And my encouragement to all of you, no matter if you've been painting for a long time or you're just starting out, this is a challenge. We talked about that at the beginning. My encouragement is to keep going. Don't give up. You have a unique gift to offer the world. You are yourself. You're not me. You're not Diana. You're not the other people in the group. You are unique and you have something good to offer. So just keep going. Don't give up, because it's really that is the key to most things in life, is just to learn how to persevere. When we feel like we're not good at something, it's easy to want to give up. But our encouragement to you is just keep going. You're taking one step at a time, and you are growing in this. So who is ready today? Are you ready to learn from Diana? And of course, I love seeing these comments here. And I love this. I see so many comments. I'm grieved for your loss, Robin. We're just already encouraging and supporting each other today here. And I'm seeing so many yes, indeed, ready for this. So we are going to jump into session 2 with Diana. Peter, we are ready to roll this. So we'll see you on the other side, guys.
I'm going to talk to you for just a few minutes about some keys to painting water. When you look at water, when you see water from different angles, and what water does in different lights. And that will help you make some decisions about your paintings, how you want to simplify, the kind of brush marks you want to use, the kind of colors you choose. So let's get started talking about keys to painting water. One of the common mistakes people make when painting water is they assume that water is always blue. I think the reason we make that assumption is because so often we go to bodies of water on beautiful days when the sun is shining and the sky is blue. Well, that's going to guarantee some blue water. But let's talk about color of water that is beyond the blue. It's like a big mirror, but not a mirror you hold up to your face that directly reflects things side to side. It's a mirror that lays on the ground and reflects everything above it. So if there are trees arching over this mirror, it's not going to be blue. In fact, if there's no blue in the sky, there's not going to be any blue in the water. It also reflects whatever is above it. So in this photo on the right, we can see that the water is reflecting the underside of the bridge, the bottom, and we can't see any of the side of the bridge in the reflection. Over on the left, we can see that our mirror is just reflecting the tops of these trees because there's a big bunch of grasses in the way of the bottoms of the trees, so our mirror doesn't have a chance to reflect those. While talking about these reflections, the smoother the water is, the more accurate the mirror image. We do not see this mountain because the mountain is too far back. It's set too far back to be reflecting in something that's looking straight up. And reflections are no longer mirror-like, but they distort when there's ripples in the water. The more ripples, the more distortion. Let's look at something else reflections do. I'm going to turn this photo to black and white for just a minute. We can already see that the water isn't blue, it's green. And that's because there's a huge cliff of trees towering above this water. When I turn the water to black and white, I want you to notice the value, that means the darkness and lightness of the reflections in the water. Reflections of light and mid-value objects like this cliff and this tree reflect a little bit darker in the water. Reflections of dark things like these big holes in the rocks and these dark spaces in the trees reflect a little bit lighter in the water. And this is usually what happens. Here we can see that this trestle bridge is reflecting a bit darker in the water because it's mid-value. Here's another aspect about reflections that you should know. If you didn't already, you probably did, but they always come straight down. Reflections come straight down towards the viewer and do not go off to the side. However, shadows follow the path of the sun and can go any direction that the sun goes. So once again, we can see reflections drop straight down from the item reflecting, while shadows follow the path of the sun. One other thing you should take note of is that reflected sky will usually gradate from lighter to darker. You can see it here. I took this little piece off from lighter to darker. The reflected sky in the water is darker than the sky itself. And that is a number of reasons. Number one, that light sky is reflecting darker. Number two, this reflection is receiving the sky much higher up in the dome of the sky, which is much bluer, and the water is very deep. And deep water is actually a little bit darker. We'll talk about that in a minute. The tree reflections here are a lot lighter than the tree that's casting those reflections. You can just barely see a change in the color of the water in these tree reflections. But the cast shadows, the shadows being cast off those trees, have very hard edges, very crisp and distinct, and they are in line with the direction of the sunlight. The reflections we're looking at are also distorted by ripples in the water, making them very soft-edged and hard to see. When we're talking about reflections, we need to talk about the angle at how the water is being viewed. Sorry, tongue twist. Here I've put some rocks and water in a little pie plate, and I'm stepping back and viewing it at an angle. And when you see the water at an angle, you see how crisp and clear the reflections are. When I look down deep inside the pan, I'm looking through the water at the bottom, and the reflections are now fuzzy and not clear. We can see this in these two photos I took just minutes apart on the same day of some ducks. The first one on the top, you can see I'm standing on the shore looking out across, and the reflections are nice and crisp and clear. On this one on the bottom, I'm standing on a short wall staring down into the water, and the water is no longer blue. It's kind of gunk colored. It's the color of the algae on the bottom of the rocks, and the reflections are very minimal at best. Depending on the depth of the water and the angle you're looking at the water, you can see what's under the water, what's in the water, and what's reflected on the surface of the water. And depending on the depth of the water, sometimes a reflection can reveal the shallow river bottom by blocking out the shinier rays of light. Here's 9 ideas about reflections on water. Number 1, dark values reflect lighter in the water. I should say dark values usually reflect lighter in the water. Nature can do all kinds of stuff, but this is what normally happens. Light values usually reflect darker in the water. Colors in reflections are diminished in intensity. It means they're more grayed down. They're usually in the same color family as the item reflected, but a little bit less intense color. The reflection of a thing will grow longer and more distorted if the water is slightly choppy. The smoother the water is, the more it's like a mirror image, and reflections drop straight down from top to bottom, while shadows follow the path of the sun. The viewer can usually see the river bottom through shallow water. And finally, 9, reflections are clearer when they're viewed at a distance. Let's look at some other things that create different colors in water, and this is impurities, like sediment, runoff, minerals, algae. Have you ever seen the runoff of a glacier into a mountain stream? It's really beautifully turquoise. There are all kinds of things that can change the overall color of water. Depth can also affect the color of water. When you're looking at bodies of water from above, you can see through the water to the sand or rocks below if the water's shallow. Pure water is clear, but sunlight doesn't penetrate beyond certain depths. Shallow water usually shows the sands, rocks, or plants that are under the surface, but they're generally a little browner or greener than the dry rocks on top. But deep water is darker and cooler in temperature than shallow water. Here you can see my little swimming hole. The shallow water looks brown and greenish, while the deep water looks turquoise. And you can really tell that that water is quite a bit deeper. In this image on the left, I'm standing on a high bridge looking down a steep canyon to a very, very deep river. And the canyon shelves along the edge of this river show me just how deep it is. Here, in the shallow water, sunlight penetrates the water and bounces back that soft brown, wet rock color. In the middle depth, the sunlight penetrates through the water, bounces back up, and it looks green. That rock shelf has a greenish look. It shows us that it's quite a bit deeper. And finally, in the deepest water, the sunlight can't bounce back. The sunlight goes down, but it's too deep to make the trip back, so the water is a dark blue-green. Over here on the right, you can see that there isn't any deep water. We can clearly see the rocks underneath, but we can tell which water is shallower and which water is deeper simply by the coolness, the blue-greenness of the water. This is a little creek with shallow water, and the sand and rocks under the water are wet, and they are covered in a grayish-green, gunky algae. So they're darker and somewhat warmer, like a browny green, warmer in color. If you've ever seen Monet's water lily paintings, you'll notice he's got a lot of this gunky green color behind his water lilies as well. But these rocks are warmer in color, browner or greener than their dry counterparts. And in the summer, when this creek dries to a little trickle, all those green rocks will dry out and they will turn as light and white as the dry ones on the side right now. Here are two paintings done by master painters that kind of describe what's happening here. In this painting on the left by John Singer Sargent, we can see that his rocks in the shallows are greenish, browny color, but we can tell they're wet. As our eyes track across the water, it gets cooler and more turquoise, and we can tell that it's getting deeper. And finally, as our eyes track across this little pond, we begin to see reflections, which means that we're starting to see out across the water. The same thing's happening here in William F. Reese's painting. The logs appear to be half in and half out of water because half of them is green and half of each log is yellow. And that kind of shows that part of the log is dry and part is wet. These rocks in the shallows are that greeny, gunky, gorgeous brown color. We see the reflections as our eyes track out across the water. So we know that deeper water is a darker color, darker than the sky. And shallow water is a lighter value. Maybe not lighter than the sky, but a lighter value. Here where the water is quite smooth, it's just wet sand, we can see it reflects the sky more accurately. Here where the water is a little deeper and roughened up with waves, it's a little bit darker. And where the waves push the sand up, we can see this brown sand is curling up inside the wave, creating a completely different color in this close wave that doesn't occur in this farther wave. And finally, we're going to look at ripples and moving water. Moving or rough water creates a really distorted reflection. Here I took these two photos just in the same 5 minutes in the same place on the Wenatchee River. In one, there's almost a photographic reflection. In the other, a little breeze picked up just a few minutes later. And I took this second picture, and we can see that my beautiful, almost photographically realistic reflection has just been changed to a mess of little wiggly lines. Let's see how that works. There's a whole science to this in physics, and when I looked up ripples on water, I got all this physics stuff, and it was fascinating, and I read through it, and there's particular words for everything that happens. But we don't need to know them right now because it's not important to our painting. But just know when we're looking at still flat water, there is an angle that the object hits the water and reflects back into your eye, and it creates a single image. Here's my shorthand for stuff: a mountain, some rippling waves, a blue sky, and a sun. Now, every time the waves bend towards the mountain, a reflection of the mountain shows up. Where the waves bend towards this sun, a reflection of the sun shows up. And wherever the waves flatten out or bottom out, reflection of the blue sky is going to show. What that means is that you're going to have a whole mess of little rippling images. Here I've made some ripples out of aluminum foil. Of course, water is more complex because it's see-through. You might be able to see the bottom of things, but I just did this so you can see how ripples work. I'm wearing a red jacket. You can see that everywhere a ripple turns toward me, my red jacket shows. It extends the reflection of my jacket. Everywhere the ripple turns away from me, the red jacket doesn't show. Now I'm going to put my orange paint apron in back behind there and take off my red jacket. So I'm just wearing a black shirt. And you can see the reverse is happening. The orange is hitting every wave that's facing it, and every wave that's facing my black shirt is black. And this is kind of what's happening with waves too, but in a much more complicated way because everything's in motion. So how do you decipher this for painting? Well, there's really an easy way. In the background, things are much more simple and small. So in the background of your water, you can simply pick a couple of really common colors and use small horizontal brush strokes to represent that movement. In the foreground, pick the colors of the reflection and use wider, larger strokes and follow the movement of the water to create those larger strokes and the ripples and movement of them. Just follow it along right with your brush. Here again, use smaller horizontal strokes for water in the background and larger, wider strokes for the water in the foreground. This is a painting by British artist John Hammond, and we can see he does this smaller horizontal brush marks in the background, larger brush marks that follow the rippling movement, that follow the movement of the water, and that have more of the reflection in them in the foreground. You can see this again. He's done it in this pond. Same thing. Smaller, more horizontal brush strokes in the back, more color, more movement, wider, broader brush marks that follow the ripples in the foreground. Here we can see the exact same procedure done by Claude Monet. If you look at other artists' artwork, you can see that they have adopted this, just simplifying the background and keeping those ripples and the movement of the water more towards the front. But now let's talk for a moment about moving water, because many people have asked me, they want to do waves or waterfalls or even to show the current in water. One of the things we want to see is that the water is moving, but it doesn't just move in a straight line. In a river like this, there's all kinds of rocks and impediments along the way. So the water is moving in one direction, but it also curls and eddies back. And that is a good time and a good place to use some brushwork here. But don't make those things white. Make sure that they are very, very softly rendered, and save your white marks for the bits of foam and flecks of sunlight. popping on the surface of the water. When you're rendering waterfalls, be aware of the movement of the water and keep your brush moving that direction. But also remembering that the water will eddy and circle back and create ripples. As you're putting your brush marks down, just be aware of the movement of the water. The water itself is flowing in a more organic way. So just being aware of the fact that there are things happening in the water, movements happening. You can keep your brushwork moving and lively as well. And one last thing I wanted to show you before we start painting is that waves and waterfalls, foamy white water has shadows. Look at how dark the shadow is on this wave. Look at how dark the shadow is on this waterfall. Even waves that are backlit have shadows, and shadows give them form and depth. So don't forget about putting shadows in your white moving water. Here are the 9 takeaways for reflections on water. I'm not going to say them out loud. I'm just going to turn them on so you can do a screenshot of them if you want. And to review a few of the other things, remember water reflects whatever is above it, except when you're viewing it at different angles. The angle of the viewer changes how reflections are seen. Deep water is darker and cooler in color than shallow water. Try to be aware of the flow and the movement of moving water. And finally, even foaming waterfalls and waves have shadows. So look for those items as you're painting. Of course, as an artist, you get to interpret what you want and what you want your viewers to see and what you want to paint. These are just ideas that you can follow, but I want you to remember this last thing. Always trust your eyes. What I've just told you are generalities, but nature is full of surprises. Every time you go out in nature, every time you really, really look, you'll see all kinds of beautiful, unusual, interesting things that seem to break all the rules. But nature is in charge, so trust your eyes. I can't wait to get started painting with you. So let's get started. So for this water demo, I've printed up this in a square format, and I'm putting it in a report cover sleeve, 8.5 by 11 report cover sleeve, because I want to draw on it a little bit with dry erase markers. I'm going to mark where that main cutoff is to make sure that it's not at the exact halfway point. And it's not. I'm also going to look to see that my 1, 2, 3, look, the rocks, the water, and the trees form 3 different sets of exactly the same height almost. So I need to change this up. If I move the rocks down just a hair, now all of these spaces are different. The other thing I really want to do is ramp up the intensity of the light on the lit side of things, because we're seeing the light hit the sunny side of the street here. I'm going to want to really ramp up the light because I think that'll make a more beautiful painting. And this area right here is going to be my focal point with bright color, warm against cool, light against dark, a hard shape against a soft shape, all right here. So I'm really going to look to creating an interesting focal point, even if I have to make this rock a little more jagged. Let's try that, just making the rock a little bigger and a little more jagged. There we go. Just jag it up a little bit, connecting up some of these light, warm colors. I may or may not put the people in the beach. What I want to do is get some yellows in those trees and make sure these back trees have a little bit of purple in them to create some contrast. To get started, I'm going to put on a wash. And my wash, I think it's going to be an orange color. So to make an orange, I'm just going to mix my red and yellow. I don't want it too red because that'll make finding the colors of my greens more difficult. Everything will look green against red. So I'm putting down a really warm wash because it's a warm late summer day. I'm actually going to emphasize that by making the trees a little yellow, but we'll get into that. Now I've kind of worked out the composition a little bit, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this red and green. That makes a brown, a violety brown, because that green has a lot of blue in it, and just start sketching in where I wanted these main ideas. Remember that rock? I wanted to make it more jagged. There's a reflection. There was this set of rocks that I brought down just a little bit that have these nice sort of slashing jags in them. Some rocks that go up to green. There's that blue reflection of the sky, and down here is where we see those pebbles, shadowed side of the rock. That set of trees that's coming into the light. I'll jag them up and make them more interesting. I'm going to put just a few bits of sky holes in some of these trees to make them more interesting, just to show the sky coming through. Now, while this is setting up a little bit, I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe away all the areas on here that are a 1, 2, 3 on the value scale. So let's look at the photo. The sky is a 1 and a 3, so I'll wipe that away. What I'm doing is laying out a little bit of a template for myself for values. The beach is a light value, as is the top and side of the rock. This side gets light. The inside edge of this, there's reflection coming in here. A little bit of reflection. Now, the other thing I'm going to do before I get started is I'm going to take a number 10. Oops, that's a number 8. I want a number 10. A little bit wider brush. And I'm going to mix up some more of this brown color using my red and green. Maybe just put a pop of orange in that to brighten it up just a little bit. And what I'm going to do with this color is I'm going to use it to lay down where my darks go, just to assemble the dark shapes. This is not the color they're going to end up being. This is just a color I'm laying down. I can make that color purple if I want. Why don't I? Just to assemble the dark shapes somehow, so I can see how the composition looks in real time with my dark shapes intact. There's some dark shapes here, here. What I want to do is just make sure that it's all interesting. Why proceed forward if it's not very interesting? And we'll use this orange as my mid value right through here. Of course, I'm going to make it green. No worries, it's going to be green. I'm just trying to find a way to create that interest. There's a diagonal bit here. There's a light bit there. Do you have to do it this way? Of course not. I can not teach you how to paint. I can only show you how I paint and how I solve problems. And in that way, it gives you some sort of guidepost for solving your own problems in your own paintings. This is not the way to do it, it's a way to create this assemblage of darks and lights and mid-values is a way of thinking about it. Jed has a different way. Every artist has a way that they've figured out how to solve the problems of their paintings. And that's what we want, a way to figure out how to solve the problems of your paintings. When I squint, I'm just putting the darks in where I see them when I squint. First set of colors to mix will be the greens because most of this is green. So I consider this phthalo green, blue shade, to be way, way too unnatural. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to mix a little orange in it. And that's going to help it look a little more natural. So this is a nice medium green. Now I'll take some yellow, and from that medium green, I'll mix a lighter green. Now I'm going to take my phthalo and my ultramarine and a little bit of red and make a darker green. Ultramarine, a little yellow, a little purple. I have a really dark green. So now I have a large variety of greens. I also want to make sort of a teal green, a lighter tealish green for those where those rocks go. So, but it's not really teal. It's kind of a orange, a tealy orangey color. Too much orange. A little more teal. And it's warm. Warm, warm, warm. Like there's a lot of yellow orange in it. So I kind of do this lighter, darker, warmer, cooler. Right now, this color just turned out to be a bleh gray. It's lighter. I'm starting to see that rock color come through. That I like. And then I have some blues. Really bright, gorgeous blues up in the sky. I'll start my idea with phthalo and see if that's the color I want. Phthalo can get really rich and bright, dark. Kind of like that color all by itself without any ultramarine in it. So I'll try that. Down near the horizon, I'm going to add a little bit of the green and white down here. I like that. Okay, this is a number 8 bright, and I think I'll use that for some of my color. And I just added a little bit of white to it, and now I'm going to add a little bit more white. And maybe just a little bit of this orange to create a warmer, more corally color in the clouds. Lighter, warmer, sort of that light color coming back here behind. Nothing like a little good old finger painting to soften some edges, huh? Then that brighter, richer color back up in here. I'm also going to take this brighter, richer color down here and just get started. I have to work kind of quickly here because I want to keep these paints relatively wet as I move my brush through this space. I'm looking for how the ripples have changed the cloud patterns and how they're the same. I'm also finding a darker version than the sky. Remember, reflections in the water are slightly darker than in the sky. So not pure white. And I may add some white highlights up here just to give it some interesting zing. There's that green color now over here where the pebbles are. It's a darker greenish khaki color. And I'll come in with more detail in a little while. First, I want to lay in the main overall colors. I'll use this color on my brush to lay down some color here, and I'll come over it with another color. This is much lighter here, so I'll dig into the lighter and smear it in. Saving my lighter value yet for up here in the trees. My darker green. I'm going to come sideways with my brush. Remember, I'm going to make those little tiny chopping strokes in the back and bigger, more amplified strokes towards the front. Add purple and green, and that's going to give me that dark, dark, dark green. Now this is just the first lay-in, so I'll come back with more color in just a second. Now, the color of those rocks in the water have this really crazy yellow-green look as they move out towards a brown color, a browny green. You want browny green? Mix brown and green. Pretty easy. And I want to get this dark. I think I'm going to make a real true purple with my red and blue back here in the deep shadows. Then a purpley green. Soft edges. Then kind of a blue, purple, green color back here. Just ever so slightly lighter. It's too dark. When you add white to lighten it, you're also cooling it. So I just put a touch of orange into it to warm it back up again. These distant trees are a more blue-green. So that's where I'm getting this color. And also slightly lighter against the sky. So what's nice is that that sky is still wet, and I can come in there. Now they get a little bit darker near their base. Okay, right here we're getting into some really dark fir trees, I think. Here what I'm doing is putting that dark down deep into this, looking for where it goes, how much. There's a lighter tree here. Now I'm just laying these in. I really want to get to the water. The water is the most important part of this composition. Now I'm switching tools for a minute. This is like a rubber spatula. It's called a painting blade or a color shaper. And I'm going to start shaping some color with it. It just works pretty much like a spatula to lay the color down. And I find it to be easier for me to deal with color this way. You don't have to use one. I like it. And like I said before, this is my way of solving problems. You don't have to solve problems this way. It's getting lighter and a creamier color as we come this way, and more still orangier, lighter, creamier as we move to the right. More orange in that. Remember when I was first setting this out, I was saying that what I really wanted to do here was to get that warm light on here. Now there's more green and it's a little darker over here. What I'm really enjoying about this tool is that it scrapes on a whole bunch of paint really quite quickly, and I can get my ideas down faster. So the thing that's telling me that these rocks are underwater are this wiggly edge and the change in color. So that's where I'm going with this, is that wiggly edge and how it gets darker and darker. The deeper it's going, and then it gets lighter and lighter the shallower it goes. So that gives me some clues. Okay, there's some of this dark green. I'm laying my tool kind of at a 45-degree angle and just using it to scribble these lines in. Now I'm going to get some of this yellow-green going here. I want to fill in all of the underwash, or a lot of the underwash anyway, so I can kind of see how it's going to look. I may leave those people off. They're not necessary to this composition, but if I think they are, I'll put them in. If they add just enough of a fun little detail. Usually when you put people in a composition, unless they're really abstracted, they become the focal point, which is fine if that's what I want. Our eyes gravitate towards people, which is also really good. I'm remembering that this is my focal point, so I want to keep the area of interest a little bit higher right here than everywhere else. But I don't want to lose interest. I just want to keep more interest here. But I want this water to be super convincing. That was a wrong color. Let me mix up some more colors here, more orange. I'm wiping my tool off as I go. Sometimes you can't see it because it's off camera. But here's some more orange. That helps me build the variety of different greens I need. And then I made that main green with phthalo and orange. There it is. That is a really nice green. And then I'm going to build a darker green using that color with ultramarine and phthalo and some red. I've got a really nice darker green here. And again, I'm making the little strokes, these little wiggles in the back, and they're getting thicker and wider as they're coming forward, because that's going to give me that feeling of the ripples and waves in the water. A little bit of this texture. I'll come back in for more. I'm going to pick up some blue here and just start creating those rippling textures through here, a little bit wider than in the back and a little bit darker than in the sky above. This is reflecting higher up in the sky than at the horizon, and it's also reflecting over those rocks a little bit. And now I'm thinking about how I'm going to make that light green and the reflection start coming down. So I'm just laying my tool here and pulling it down. You can do that with a brush too. You can do it with your finger. Okay, I'm going to get some more cloud ripples in here. This is looking nice. It's starting to get crusty. As the paint begins to dry, there's a nice textural crust happening here that I really like. If you don't like it, you don't have to have it. That's the nice thing about painting. It's so personal. Everybody gets to put on their painting what they like. What they don't like can be left off. More brown. That brown was easy. It was just the phthalo green, the red, and a little orange. So you can see I'm still kind of staying true to a basic color wheel here as I mix colors, each color for the next generation of colors. And remembering to just use my paper towel that's in my hand to wipe off my tool as I go. Now there's this really light beige color for the beach. And then there's a shadow right there. I'll leave that off. The same light, really light color. It's almost a coral color. So I'll do white with orange. And then there's this light color up on top of the rock. It gets almost white where the sun is really, really bright. There's a little patch of beach back here. I'll get that in better with a brush in a minute. There's a turning plane. And a turning plane is just, I'm sure most of you know it, but if you don't, the meaning of that is just where the object we're looking at is turning from shadow to light or light to shadow. It creates a next level of values. Then there's white right here at the top. But I'm using it, mixing it with the color inside. So it isn't pure white. I don't want it to be pure white. Like I love these little strokes of clouds as they're breaking up in the ripples. That's a favorite thing of mine. So I'm going to make sure to get those in because they're a favorite thing of mine with this photo ref. There's some bright light green right along the edge of the beach reflecting. There's purple, a purple shadow. I'll mix up some purple over here. Red and blue. There's a purple shadow on the beach here. And I feel like there's some purpley color in this rock. And maybe a little over here. Under the bushes. Now, I'm not going for a photo representation, a photographic likeness. What I'm going for is a feel of movement in the water, of the light and warmth of the day, trying to get that feel. And if I get that feel, I will feel like I'm successful. Because to me, I can take a picture. I can have this picture. I can print this picture up on my printer and have it. But to have a painting that creates a feel of something, that helps you feel a mood, an emotion, a temperature, a day, to me that is so special. There's some orange in here. And a little bit darker green through here, but it ripples because the water is rippling over it. I added just a touch of white to my yellows to make them opaque so they stand out against the background. And I'm using the side of my tool to create interest and variation here. Some of these rocks are still catching light, and I'm going in lighter. A little bit of blue down in here, just a little bit. Create that soft edge. We're going after a few soft edges in this tree. Or that's what I'm going after. Some people paint all hard-edged, and it's beautiful. Meaning every brushstroke is just a hard piece. For me, I like there to be some soft and hard things going on. So I create this little back and forth dialogue between hard things and soft things. Now there's ripples in here that I want to get. Internal ripples in this shadow. And I'm seeing a ripple area that's really beautiful. It's like a turquoise. A little bit warmer. I'm seeing a little bit of like a reflection on the water right through. A little bit more chunky, thick light up top. Finding a way to create something interesting here. Looking at my reference photo more deeply to find areas that are interesting and fun. Back and forth until I have what I want in the way of interest. Now I've got this dark kind of purple color, and I'm gonna find that slash in the rocks. More orange right through here. Some veining in the rock. And what's nice about this tool is I can drag it over the stuff that's drying and crusting up and get it to create all kinds of textures. Little tiny thin marks in the back. And then bigger, wider, more open marks as we come forward. Oh, I'm having so much fun. It's hard to put the paintbrush down, but I think I'm going to put the paintbrush down and let this dry for just a minute so I can step back and see what I need to do next. I think I need to bring some of this green color over before I step back. But by stepping back, letting things set up, the acrylics are so nice because they set up and you can lay more color in on top. I liked that this made a point right there, and I lost that point. Keeping them on a Stay Wet palette. These colors are as wet as when I laid them out. Okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes to review, and then I'll be back to put in the finishing touches. So I feel like in the time we have left, there are maybe a couple of little marks to put on here. I don't want to do too much more because this is a 40-minute, 35-minute demo. And sure, there's always going to be more. And I could paint on this 4 hours. But what I'd like to do is bring it to some kind of beautiful resolution right here. So I'm going to take just a moment to add some really crazy, beautiful color, because I feel like it needs a little bit of these pops of orange, these pops of lighter color. That beach could be lighter. Now I've switched from my color shaper to this brush because I'm doing smaller detail, and the color shaper is great. Even for small detail, it can be really fantastic. But I just thought I would switch to a brush. See, I'm holding the brush way out here. I actually have get more rhythm and can stand back farther from my image if I hold way out on the end of the brush. So that's my goal, is to have some rhythm, to find the rhythm of the movement of these clouds. And then there is a shadow that comes through here that I have not quite gotten yet. Remember the reflections come straight down and the shadow is going across. So I'm gonna just go for a minute with my reflections, get some texture, but I really want that shadow and it needs to be dark. So I've got my two darkest colors that will contrast my red and my phthalo blue. And it's making a shadow pattern across here. I can add a little phthalo green to that too. It'll be almost black then. Then there's a little bit of a light color through here. Through here. Some light colored reflections coming down from the rocks. I want to put some of that bright orange in this focal area. I see it in some of the foliage over here, and I want to just bring it over here. Get some of this purple color to finish out this out of water. And then there are some little orangey yellow First I did 2 orange, 2 yellow, little orangey yellow flecks through here, a lighter area. The sunlight's coming down on that rock. And kind of made it big and boofy. It looks kind of like a baked potato. I'm gonna give it a hard edge right here. And then a dark edge where it hits the water, right where it hits the water. And a really dark edge over here, right where it hits the water. And just a little bit of texture in through here. By using the side of my brush, I'm creating just a tiny bit of texture, lightening some things, creating a little texture where we see the pebbles under the water. I think that's what we're seeing over here too. It's just some pebbles under the water, but the ripples are in there, and I'm seeing a little bit of orange ripple. So I'm putting that in there. As much as I want to keep going, as much as I feel like I could keep going forever and ever and ever on this painting. Nope, not that color. We'll call it done. Okay, what do you say? I'd say it's about done. Let's call it done before I wreck it. Here's the final painting. I hope that it represented some of the concepts we talked about in the tutorial, and I hope you learned a lot.
All right, everybody. Was that not amazing? So let's all just say thank you to Diana real quick. And what I'll just say real quick, we'll bring her on. We're going to do a Q&A. So any of you who have questions or anything like that, we'll make sure that we get to any of those questions. But we're going to give away a prize here in just a second. And I'm going to show you a little bit more information. All the replays, reference photos, supply list, homework, and more can be found where? That's right, at thelandscapeworkshop.com. So if you're participating in this workshop and want to be eligible for a prize, you do have a little bit of homework, and I'll try to be more clear about this. You just choose a reference photo, one that we provided, Diana's, that she just painted from, or you could find a photograph of water that you would like to paint, maybe your own. And then paint that scene, applying what you learned from Diana. Take a photo of the painting, share it in the Facebook group, and then submit that form that's on the dashboard. And there's no upload necessary. Just go to the form, say, yes, I did the work, and you will be eligible next time. Also, we'd love to have you in the Facebook group. It is super, super fun to be in there, and supportive and encouraging. And just going to mention real quick, our membership is open right now for a very limited amount of time. I'm going to talk more about that on Friday, if that's okay with you guys. But if you want to get a sneak peek of what that is, go to acrylicuniversity.com/membership, and you'll see that. Now it is time for the giveaway. So I'm going to pull up the wheel of names. Okay, so are you guys ready for this? Now today, again, it's a $250 gift card. And I can show you that, but it's not a big deal. But basically, $250 gift card for art supplies. Are you ready for this? I'm going to count 3, 2, 1, and let's see who the winner is today. $250. That'll be good luck. A good amount of money to get some art supplies, and it is Susan today. Susan, congratulations. You have just won some art supplies. And so now we are going to move into our Q&A. Again, make sure you come back Friday. I want to make sure you see this. Friday, we're going to have our session 3, and we're going to then have our final celebration on Monday. So make sure that you come back for that. That's where we give away our biggest prizes, our most prizes. Oops, I did not. Hey. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Peter. I was like, why is it not big? Yeah, okay. So, but it's time for the Q&A, guys. So let's jump into that. Whoopsie. There we go.
All right. Hi.
Thank you, Diana. That was a gorgeous painting. And
Thank you.
really,
Thank you. I didn't have time to say thank you to every single person who was saying nice things, but I want to thank you all for your lovely comments. That was great.
okay, first question. What kind of gloves are you wearing?
Nitro gloves. I use them mainly because I do lots of finger painting, and then I have like a camera and my computer, and if I touch them with my wet hands, I get paint all over my stuff. So I use the gloves to keep my equipment clean mainly.
Very good. By the way, Peter, did we pull up the address like for the winner for Susan so she will send her information to us? You did that? You put that on the screen? Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, second question. Can we use a different color for the wash, like blue or purple?
Anything you think will be instructive and helpful to you. I chose warm because it was a warm day and the warmth comes through the paint a little bit and you can sort of feel warmth. But I think when it comes to the underwash, just go ahead and do what is helpful to you. Practice with different types and see what you like.
How do you dispose of your water? Jim asks.
Well, that depends on whether you have a septic system or or whether you're hooked onto the sewer. Don't put it down your drain if you have a septic system. If you go onto the Golden Paint website, they have a whole description of how you can filter your water and dispose of it properly. At one point when I had a septic system, I dug a giant hole and filled it with sand and gravel and activated charcoal, and the paint water went down the hole so that it filtered out as it went into the ground. But it's terrible for a septic system.
What wash do we use on Friday? So that'll be the demo that I'm doing on Friday, and I toned my canvas gray for that. And that canvas on Friday, the one that I'm going to be using is actually 11 by 14. And I apologize because that's not our normal size, but it was the size that I had that I thought would be good for that picture. So that is what it's going to be. But if you have a different size, the demo is going to be more about the method of creating an atmosphere and less about the exact scene. It's going to be, so if you have a different size, that's okay. Lynn asks, can you show us and talk a little bit more about your spatula? We knew that would come up because
knew that was coming. I'll go get it. I almost grabbed my hairbrush. My spatula's around the corner.
Okay. So it is, I believe that somebody put it in there earlier, and it's a Princeton paint shaper is what I think it's called. Is that right?
They're called paint shapers, color shapers, painting blades. Those are all. This is a 1 inch. This one, I can no longer tell what brand it is because it's covered with paint, but it's very flexible. You can see the tip is extremely flexible. And if you're using a spatula from the kitchen, they're usually rounded, which won't work like mine. I make nice straight lines with mine. They come in a variety of sizes. This is a 2 inch. I also have a 4 inch and I have a 1/2 inch. So This one is called a spatcher. It's a 2-inch spatcher by Creative Mark. So, so they do. I think each company has a different name for them, but just get them at your paint store, at your art store with paintbrushes. They come there.
What kind of surface did you paint on, or do you normally paint on?
Well, here it is. It's a MDF board, which is it's cradled with this wood. And when it's not painted on, it's really, really smooth. It's a Da Vinci Ultra Smooth. Jed, you use the same things, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I like them a lot. They're quite, I don't know. They're nice. Definitely like them.
Right. Yeah. For a small painting, I love them because they show the brush marks while a canvas can just gobble up your paint.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if I have one here. I might be able to find one that has the logo still on it or something like that. Oh, I do. I'll try to show you guys what it looks like. Oh man, it's going to be a little bit funky looking, but I'll show you anyways. Da Vinci Ultra Smooth gesso panels. That's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Emily says, do you want to use warmer or cooler tones in your reflections?
That's a really good question. And I think you have to use your eyes and compare. I don't think that there's a set answer for that. You just have to compare the reflection color to other like colors. For instance, if the reflection is a greenish color, compare that green to the other greens around in your reference photo to see if it's warmer or cooler, because nature changes constantly and there's no set answer for that.
Okay, Janet asks, really curious on how long you wait for a painting this thick to dry before varnishing.
What about you, Jed? How long do you wait?
Well, I would say that your paintings probably end up being a little bit thicker than mine in a case like this one. But when I've done more palette work or palette knife work on a painting, I mean, I usually let it dry for a couple days before I spray it with varnish. If it's pretty thick, like if it's normal thickness, I'm not too worried about it because it dries to the touch in about 20 minutes, and I figure I can varnish it the next day. The reality is that usually they sit for quite a while. Usually I'll finish a painting and I don't just go varnish it. I usually let them sit for a while because I'm usually not 100% certain that there isn't something else to do. So they usually sit for a couple weeks realistically, and then I varnish them. Okay, Ludmilla says, what is the website for these classes? So if you go to thelandscapeworkshop.com, you can find everything there. I think that's what you mean. If you are looking for our membership, that is acrylicuniversity.com. So those are the two websites that you can know. Tamara asks, why a spatula as opposed to a palette knife?
Personal choice. Again, my spatula I can hold like a brush, while palette knives you have to hold like, I don't know, like you're doing a cake. I normally run my fingertips and knuckles through the paint when I'm holding a palette knife. So I'm just a big mess with a palette knife. I've been really, the spatula just works out for me. And that's why I say it's a personal choice. You don't have to have one. Don't run out and get one just because I used it. It's just was a solution for me to not run my knuckles through my painting.
That's good. I have a question here, Peter. I see that I want to answer real quick. It's, what was the size of the canvas today? And you said that it was a 12 by 12 canvas. So here's another question that I think a lot of people were asking about the Masterson Stay Wet palette. Would you just talk briefly? I don't want to go into it because it is quite a fine-tuned thing, and now I'm thinking about it. We have some resources available to you on YouTube that talk quite a bit about just how to set it up right and things like that. But I did see some people asking more generic questions about this Stay Wet palette. Can you address what is good about it and why you use one?
Well, acrylics, as you know, dry really quickly. And the Stay Wet palette is the best resource I've found. It's not perfect. The lid is hard to get on and off, but there's a sponge that holds water next, and the water is held next to a very absorbent piece of paper. And that sponge will wick water up through the paper and keep your paints moist. And if you read the instructions, this is a problem most artists have. They don't read the instructions on the Stay Wet palette box. Read the instructions and follow them carefully so that the sponge isn't too wet or too dry. And make sure that palette paper is just slicked onto that surface as hard as you can. Bubbles in the palette paper means that there's air underneath, and air will dry out your paint. You want to keep your paint sitting on a wet surface. If you do your palette right and seal it up after your painting session, it can stay wet up to a month. And it saves you the palette's probably $15 to $20, but it saves you hundreds of dollars in wasted paint, in dried out paint. It's worth the investment. So
that's perfect. Oh, sorry, Peter. I didn't see that you switched it. I was answering this question because, again, just keep going back to the landscapeworkshop.com. Where can I find a copy of the painting so I can continue painting? Everything's there. Reference photos, a picture of the finished painting. It's all going to be at the landscapeworkshop.com. Okay, thanks, Peter. You can click that one back. Okay, Robin asked, with the first portion of this demo, will all the list of tips be available in a handout?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that I'm pretty sure that we have them on the Landscape Workshop dashboard there. Okay, RP asked, there are different types of prices for membership, kind of confusing. Please talk about these in more detail. Well, I'll go briefly into it right now, but I'll talk more about it on Friday. But essentially, you can sign up as a monthly member, which means you're just paying for 1 month at a time. There's no contract there. It's just you pay as long as you want to, and you have access to everything for as long as you are paying the monthly membership price. So you can think of it like Netflix. You pay for a month, you have access to everything that's in there. The minute that once your subscription is over, your access to the content is over. So that's a monthly. You can pay for an annual membership, which means you would pay for the full year in advance. You would get a discounted rate because you're paying for it up front. And that means you have it for the full year. And as long as you keep, that would renew at the end of the year, and you would continue to get that discounted rate. Or the third option is a lifetime membership, and that means you would take larger payments. We have it broken up into 3 monthly payments, I think, maybe 4 monthly payments. I think it's 3 though. And you would just pay this amount. Actually, it might be 4. Anyways, you pay the amount for 3 months, 4 months, and then at the end of that time, you're done, and you have access for the life of the membership. So that's the best deal because you just kind of finish your payments and you're done with it. But all the content inside of the membership is going to be the same, except for the bonuses that you get. When you sign up for an annual bonus, you get or annual membership, you get an extra bonus, and you get another one with the lifetime, which includes hanging out with me on a live stream as we do a Zoom call together as just kind of our welcome orientation. Thanks for the question. Okay, Sandy asks, when you say phthalo green, blue shade, are there 2 phthalo greens?
Oh, I think there's a lot of different shades and temperatures of green. It depends on the maker, but yeah, there's more than one. Definitely. Um,
Yeah,
I
I can answer that a little bit because right here in front of me, I have this. This is phthalo green and it's yellow shade. So there's only 2 phthalo greens. One might be labeled that leans towards blue. The other might be labeled that leans towards yellow. But
Mhm.
you might find it that it's not labeled at all like that. It just says phthalo green. So just again, it's the nuances of different paint companies.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't have to have the phthalo green. It is a shortcut. Jed and I both find it kind of really valuable to create another. It's like a really unique pigment color, and it comes in really handy for so many beautiful things. Um, and I keep seeing more and more questions going up about that Stay Wet palette, Masterson Stay Wet palette. We are not associated with that company. It's just they make a really good product. So you can't buy it from us. You got it from a art store. But someone said they put theirs in the freezer. Please don't do that. The palette cracks and the paint, if you freeze acrylic paint, it turns blobby and nasty and gooey. So don't freeze your paint and don't freeze your palette. Just follow the instructions and you'll have better luck than just putting your paint out. In a pinch, I get those really cheap paper plates and get them wet. When I'm out plein air painting and I run out of stuff in my or forgot my palette, I'll use cheapo paper plates and get them wet, and that'll give you enough moisture to get through a painting session. But try them out. Try out the Mastersons. They're great, and they save you lots of money.
Perfect. Okay, Barbara says, was that... Oh, I didn't, it went away. Was that gesso on a board or on linen? Okay, that was board. We already talked about that. That was the DaVinci Pro panel. It's a gesso board. Okay, thanks for that. I saw this. Okay, is there any color other than the vibrant green for the trees on the other side of the beach? I'm not sure what that means exactly.
Well, we have the dark blue green, and then we have the, oops, my hand's going the wrong way, not mirror, the light yellow green. I'm not sure what exactly you're talking about, but I used lots of different nuances of green layered on top of each other throughout all of this. And I used my blues and yellows to create the greens. As well as adding little drops of the phthalo. I think, I can't remember now. It was so many minutes ago.
Irene says, I'm so happy I have a lifetime membership. The best thing I've done for me and my art. And that's super awesome, Irene. That you and all the people who respond and just let us know that it's been helpful and change your direction. It really gives us encouragement. And so thank you for saying that. Will palette knives work just as good as the spatula? I have lots of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just get good at what you have. And there isn't magic in buying an art supply. The magic is in learning to see. And then just training your hand to use the materials. I could probably train my hand to use a palette knife, and I'm being lazy. So,
okay. DC asks, are you and Diana doing the painting at the same time to see different styles this time? Was hoping to see that again. So we'll do that on Monday, I think. We haven't really confirmed that bit, but that's what we normally do. It's a fun way to have our celebration together, and we'll have one reference photo. Both Diana and I will paint it kind of as in our own styles and 2 different approaches, and you'll be able to see both of them happen at the same time. That's just the celebration happens at the end of our time when we give away the big prizes. But yes, we do plan on doing that. Okay, all class information at Landscape Workshop, thelandscapeworkshop.com. Could you please explain how to use the Stay Wet palette? Oh, we already talked about that one, Peter.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, guys. I think we have time for a couple more questions here. Peter, you can throw that one back up there. Should you always prepare your canvas with gesso? We talked about that the other day too, didn't we, Diana? Basically, when we use this kind of thing, it's already got like layers of gesso on it. Usually, a lot of canvases are triple primed. This kind of panel has a nice layer of gesso. I personally usually put down something, but it's not usually to enhance the surface or make it better or something like that. It's just because if I want a little bit of texture, I want a little bit of tooth on there, I might just throw down something. Or if I'm changing the color of it, like I'll put down black gesso, like I have right here, my famous Bob Ross black gesso. But those are the reasons I would put gesso or something down, not so much because it needs extra coats. Like some artists do that, and I never have been one. I'm more just boom, let's just open it up and throw it down.
Yeah, that's what I did today. I just used the canvas as it came in the package.
Perfect. Okay, well, I think that we're pretty much done. I'm going to throw a couple slides up here just real quick again so that we can just make sure people know. This is your homework, guys. Choose a reference photo, paint the scene, take a photo, and then go to the dashboard to where it has the form, click the link, and you can just fill out the form and let us know that you did the homework. And we will see you guys on Friday. We're going to give away another prize, and then we're going to have the weekend to finish up any homework that you haven't gotten done. Anything that you get done and you turn in, or you let us know that you got it done, you'll have more chances for the celebration giveaway on Monday. That's going to be super awesome. Remember this, guys, you are loved and believed in. We are so thankful for you, proud of you. And personally, I just want to say a big thank you to Peter and a huge thank you to Diana. Thank you for sharing all your teaching with us and inspiring us and having a good time together. It was a wonderful example of how to enjoy art and just continue growing. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.
All right. We'll see you guys Friday. Have an awesome rest of the day and a good Thursday. VIP members, we have one session tomorrow. Don't forget about that. We'll see you there.